Hello, my name is Jana. I live in a forest and I'm trying to make quilty things for you on YouTube. This week I promised to make a key fob with you, and as this one is already made, but I don't like it, so we are going to remake it. And here's the idea. Actually, making those things is a very cool project if you want to batch make something, like for a fair to sell or something, or as gifts. And it's a cool thing. You can chain piece stuff and have a little assembly line and do it very efficiently. And what I was going to do is I was going to cut myself some strips of fabric. Like, this thing is 1 inch wide because my hardware is 1 inch wide. And I was going to cut some 1.5 inch strips and probably make them into 1.5 inch squares because I'm only making one. And I was going to do everything on a machine because doing things on a machine is very efficient and quick. And for a project like this, why it's cool to batch make them on a machine is because it takes longer to set up the machine than it takes to make this thing, theoretically, if you know what you're doing. But it's not very on brand for me, is it? And I felt like I didn't really want to do the project. I wasn't excited. I was just like, oh, why did I even say that I was going to do that? Because if I didn't say that I was going to do it, I could make something else and maybe just talk on camera for a video. And now this video was supposed to come out yesterday, but it didn't because I didn't even start making the thing. I've realized that what I need to do is just be myself and do it by hand. And it's going to make it interesting because I think that most people who do a thing like that, they do it on a machine, and there are many tutorials on how to make a key fob on a machine, but I'm going to do it by hand like an idiot. And I'm going to share the process with you. And of course, the pros of doing it by hand is, in my opinion, it's more enjoyable. And that's the only reason. It's just more fun, I think. And the result is going to be more tactile and cool. And I don't have to take the machine out. I don't have to make any noise, which is always a plus for me. And we're going to do some English paper piecing, where it's completely unnecessary because we're sewing together some squares and some rectangles. But it's going to be fun, hopefully. Now let me show you what we're working with. Here's what we're working with. This is a prototype that I don't like. It was made on a machine. It has the inner side in one plain fabric. It has the outer side, which is pieced on a machine. And this particular one has interfacing on the inside to make it a little bit more stiff. And with our hand sewn thing, we're going to have the inner fabric in one solid fabric, and I want to have a different thing going on the outside. I have those squares left over from a previous project. I'm going to have a couple more in different colors, but the plan is I want to have 4 squares on each side that are going to be pieced like so. And then I'm going to have a section of just one fabric on the bottom towards the seam, because I just think that it's going to look cool, and I think that they're going to be different on different sides, just cause. And that means that this strip of wadding that I'm going to have as a guide on the inside is 1 inch by 12 inches. And that's what we're working with. So first step, I'm going to make sure that I have all the colors that I want for the squares, because right now it's a little bit monotone in color because those are leftovers from a bag that we made previously. So I'm going to dig through my scraps and make a couple more interesting squares and sew them all together. Here I did my stitching, and as I was doing it, I've realized something. Even though I'm doing a project by hand, I'm still following the steps of as if I was doing it on a machine, in a way. So I was thinking that for those end pieces, I could either make two 2-inch wide, 2-inch long units and attach them on both sides, and then have a seam here as like I would do in here. Or I could take one 4-inch unit and attach it on one of the ends, and I'm going to make a loop, and then I'm going to kind of work this loop into this loop, and it's going to be fine. I think that I'm going to work with that, and I'm going to try and get my 4-inch piece out of this scrap piece of fabric. I finished the outer strip, and now I'm going to move on to prep the inner thing. I figured, as I was making this one, that the hardest thing to do for me was to keep everything straight, all the edges. So I'm going to use this wadding as a guide and just thread baste it. I was originally planning to do it on a machine, so I have very little seam allowance. But I'm going to just fold it like that and stitch it into place with a little bit of thread. This way, when I'm going to go and close the loop, everything is going to be in place and everything is going to be straight. Keeping it real, the strip of fabric that I had for my inner strip was a bit too narrow, so I had to get rid of it, and I'm going to cut a new one. And the good news is that I don't have to measure anything precisely. I can just eyeball it, my favorite way of doing things, and it's going to be fine because I'm doing it by hand and I have this wadding as a guide. So nothing needs to be cut precisely, which is handy because I forgot my rotary cutter in my other sewing room. So here is my inner strip, and now I'm going to try and put it into my hardware, because in order to close those loops I need to have my hardware on. And I checked it off camera and it fits, but kind of snugly. It doesn't feel very free in here, but it's going to be fine because I'm going to take the papers out, and yeah, it's going to get better. Right now I'm going to connect this, and then I'm going to take the papers out, I think. So how are you? How are you doing? Well, I'm stitching here. Recently, I had a lot of days where I just want to stay in bed. So that's why I found it a little bit difficult to show up for the videos. Yeah, I feel like I want to do a lot of things, but I tell myself, well, I need to film this, so I don't do anything. Like, I have a couple projects that are very much overdue at this point, but I don't do them because I don't feel like filming, and maybe I should just do the things and show you the results because it might work. I did this before. So yeah, maybe January actually isn't a good time to start a new life because, well, the weather is asleep and it kind of, days are short, and short days don't promote a lot of just being active. Maybe yeah, maybe it wasn't a good idea, but I'm actually doing things. I have started making a website for my new business, kind of on a whim, because I wrote an article about wording for those coasters, because it's kind of a difficult topic. You cannot just use synthetic fibers recklessly because they melt. And for mug rugs, coasters, tea cozies, you kind of want things to not melt. So I wrote an article because I want to have kind of my sewing patterns, and I want to have some additional materials so that I don't have to shove all the knowledge that I have into the sewing pattern, but at the same time I want to make sure that people have access to the information because it's kind of important. And there's a lot of assumed knowledge in sewing, but I'm making my patterns for complete newbies, for noobs, for people who don't know anything about sewing and about quilting. So yeah, I feel the need to do that. So I wrote an article and I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could just have this article on my own website instead of some social media platform? I just feel like it's more secure this way, and I can do whatever I want. Like, I can place photographs where I want. I can format the text the way I want it to be. Like, I'm not in any way bound by the rules of the social media website that I'm using. So I did a website. There's a kind of a website constructor that I'm using. It's a good one. It allows a lot of things. I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to make an English version because I don't want to leave you without the information that I'm providing, even though you might not need it, because in the Western countries you have easier access to wording. Like, in here it's a bit more difficult to get the good stuff, and you can just order it on Amazon and it's going to arrive at your doorstep. And in here, like, high quality wording, 100% cotton wording, you have to order it on a very special website. Like, you cannot find it just anywhere. It's very hard to find, and it costs like a wing of an airplane jet. Yeah, very expensive. So we kind of learn to use other stuff. The papers are out. And now I need to figure out how to connect this whole thing. I'm figuring out things as I go, because that's very on brand. I think that's a good way to do things. You know what? I'm going to attach this to this using some clips, and then I'm going to figure out the length of this outer thing. And I think that I cut it too short. Did I cut it too short? I did. It's a bit too short. I don't have enough wadding. I'm going to add enough wadding. I'm going to add a little bit of wadding in here. Next time I'm going to know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to be interested in doing it one more time because I already did it, and it's only fun for me when I do it the first time. That's why I'm figuring out on camera, because otherwise, like, recording a tutorial would bore me to death. I wouldn't do it. So that's why it's messy. But to show you a magic trick, like, look, I have my loops. Like, this isn't a loop yet, but it's going to be a loop. And you can see that I have about maybe half an inch of wadding missing. But if I turn it inside out, you'll see that it's a perfect fit. Here's what I'm doing. I have my two halves of my loop, and I'm kind of feeling that this is where my wadding ends. So this is where I'm going to stitch across to close the loop. I think I should pin it. Just, to pretend that I'm making an effort. I'm going to do a simple back stitch because it's not very important, but very neat that I have those lines, and I can follow the lines to make sure that I'm stitching across my fabric. Now I have the loop closed. Is it the best seam in the world? No, but it works. Now I'm just going to make sure that everything is neat in here. This can be closed, this can be closed. Like that. I'm going to make sure that this seam is not here, because this is the weak spot. I think I'm just going to stitch it like I would two English paper piecing units, just over the edge. It's not going to be visible because I'm stitching from the inside of the loop, but it's going to make it a lot stronger. I'm not sure if it's necessary. I'm not going to hang anything heavy from it, but we don't like sloppy work. And there's a limit to how sloppy I can get with my work. Now it's going to be a much better seam. And it's not visible, like the stitches aren't visible from the outside. They are visible from the inside though, but it doesn't matter. Okay. So, now I have two loops. And what I need to do is I need to make it into one loop. Yeah. I'll simply pull the top loop on top of the inner loop. Make sure that everything lines up. clip them together, and then I'm going to go over the edge here, and I'm going to stitch it closed because I'm a mad woman. I don't like that have some corners peeking out, and as I'm stitching it closed, I'm going to make sure that nothing peeks out, and also I'm going to make sure that it's very, very secure. And after I'm done with that, like about an hour, I'm going to do a nice decorative line of top stitching, and it's going to look like on here, like this type of stitching, like a little bit of decorative quilting on top. I'll see you now. I'll show you what I'm doing. Here is my 2 loops clipped together. You can see that there's a little bit of extra fabric on here, but it's not going to be a problem. I'm going to make sure that it's all stitched nicely, and here are the corners that I'm talking about. They're peeking out. They're a little bit visible, and that's just the nature of the beast. You cannot do anything about it, but I'm going to stitch it closed neatly. It's my needle. I'm going to start somewhere at the bottom, and I need to start. I'm going to start somewhere where I can hide my knot. It's not very convenient to do it over the camera. Like so. And now I'm just going to very gently pick one thread on one side, one thread on this side, going to stitch it closed like so. And as I do that, I'm going to hide all the corners, all the mess that I don't want to see, and make sure that it's not visible. It's unnecessary, by the way. It's one of those things that I do that you don't have to do. We could just, right now, we could jump on a machine and just top stitch it, like right about here. It would be fine, I guess. But I think that doing it like this makes it look a lot more clean. And if you're experiencing a power outage or something, you can still make one of those key fobs completely by hand with no sewing machine needed. That's why I like this craft. It doesn't require a lot of electricity. I just figured out that a sewing machine is a power tool. Because it's a tool, it requires electricity, so it's a power tool. I'll see you in about an hour when I'm finished with stitching all of this. It only took about 35 minutes to do both sides. Now I have everything ready to go. It's really puffy because it has the wadding inside. Like this one has interfacing, and it's sturdier and it's a lot thinner. And I wasn't thinking this through, but this one is a lot puffier. We're going to reduce this volume a little bit by quilting it, but I think it's just an interesting effect, something to think about. My seam on my inner loop is off center. If you can see it in here it is. It's not in here. Like the most tension, the point with most tension has a very strong fabric. So here's the plan moving forward. I'm going to take this thread. It's white. Like the thread on this bag is off-white and it's a different type of thread, but I'm going to take this because I cannot be bothered to go and collect the correct thread. So this will have to do. I'm going to do a couple lines slightly off the edge here, and I'm going to stitch this closed. And I'll meet you at the other end. Did it. Finished. Done. I'm happy. I was supposed to finish it before the New Year's. Now it's the end of January. I think it's much better than this one because this one it doesn't fit the bag. It kind of uses the same fabrics, but the color palette is significantly different because it has some contrast, it has some lights, some darks. This one doesn't have any lights or darks. It's very monotone in a way. And this one also doesn't have any whites or darks. And it has similar fabric on the inside, same as this one. So everything kind of fits together nicely. Has similar quilting on it. It just generally feels nicer. I don't know, and it's done completely by hand. So if you have a power outage, you still can do something like this. That's what I like about English baby piecing. I actually, if I had to make 2 of those, I would have made them on a machine because it's just too much work for such a small thing, and you have to make a decision like when do I scale up, when do I have to change the equipment. Like I thought that in order to make one I had to take the sewing machine out. It's like the big guns. But actually making one is okay. You can do it by hand. If you have to make 2, it's going to be significantly faster if you do it on a machine. And the quality, I think, is going to be better. And you're going to be less bored. But if I have to make one, I really enjoy the process of making things by hand. And I can watch my podcast. And I can think my thoughts, and it's all great. But I know that some people can work on a sewing machine with a sewing machine and listen to a show in the headphones, like I wouldn't be able to do that. Not only because it's too much noise for my little brain, but also because working with a sewing machine requires so much concentration that my brain kind of tunes out everything else. Even if I have something playing, I just cannot hear what's going on. It's just too much information, I guess. Yeah, sewing machines and me we have a history. But it's done. It's finished, and I think it's cute. I know that there are a lot of tutorials online how to make a key fob, more something like this, when it's machine stitched. But I think that that's a little bit of a break from machine sewing videos, and maybe you like this method more. That's it for this video. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you when I see you. I'm not making any promises this time because I think that January isn't a good time to try and push myself. But yeah, I think that next time when I see you, we're going to finish something. We're going to finish something big. Something that was supposed to be finished last spring, but didn't get finished last spring. Something that took me all year to finish. That's what we're going to be doing in the next video, but I'm not sure when it's coming out. Anyway, until then, I hope that you're well, and I hope that you're doing something exciting.